What's up, coach?
Mhm.
Can't hear you. Let me.
How's my crew? How are you guys doing?
We're doing excellent.
Everybody's doing well. Hold on one
One
second.
second.
We're gonna go live on
Okay.
Facebook.
Oh, geez. Is that LT on there? Do I see LT down there?
LT
I
is
definitely
on.
see-
She's definitely registered.
Oh, no
for the call.
picture. Come on, LT.
What up, guys?
A cute
Give me a
face.
second. Give me a second.
Coach Williams. What's going on?
I see Coach Moore's on.
Much.
All right, we're getting there.
Almost there. Almost there.
Somebody needs to turn off their picture, mother.
All right. Okay. All right, so we're good. We are now live on Facebook as well. All right, so welcome to the Coaching Corner. Today's interview is actually with someone that is very, very dear to our heart.
Very dear.
This person literally has changed our life. And I'll let my wife actually tell what she actually did for us.
I just want to say just thank you for bringing us together. Coach is the reason we are together. We are married 6 years ago. You introduced me to Devin, telling me how great he was, and you are not lying. So I just want to say thank you. This interview is dear to our heart.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. And I can't even tell you how happy I am for both of you. You two are a match made in heaven. Jim and I coming to the wedding last summer was awesome. Beautiful wedding. Beautiful.
Thank you. So for those of us on the call that are coaches or video coordinator support role, whatever you do, Bethann's definitely going to be able to help you to increase your knowledge and be able to help you kind of push the needle on your career. I've literally been able to watch Bethann go. I mean, first of all, she's a fierce recruiter. Obviously, she recruited us together, so that's a match made in heaven. So she actually did introduce us, and she was the one that put us together. And not only is she a fierce recruiter, she's built numerous programs. She's been around, man. She's been around coaching. What is it? 30 years, Coach?
30 years.
Wow.
Hate to say it. 30 years. Craziness, but
still young and fly, as she always will be. Right. So I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna let you just kind of tell your journey. How did you even get to become a head coach? Now she's a head coach at Binghamton. But how did that journey go? Like, when did you actually start to coach? And kind of just walk us through how you got to where you are.
So, born and raised in Rochester, New York, and both my parents were coaches. My dad was a basketball coach. My mom coached tennis, and she was a cheerleading coach. So I grew up around it, and played ball for a year at Monroe Community College, and then transferred to UMBC, where I was a 3-year starter and point guard. And when I was finished, I got my undergrad in psychology. And it was kind of one of those things. I was either in education, and then I just kept taking psych classes. And when I graduated, being a 5'5", 5'4" point guard back then, we didn't have a lot of opportunities to play overseas. Everybody, we were a dime a dozen. So I immediately went home, got right into coaching. My first year was a small Division III school, Nazareth College, where my mom was the men's and women's tennis coach, the admissions assistant, everything, you name it. And I was assistant there for a year. And I learned real quick at that level, Division III, I don't care. I think I learned a lot as far as, you had to recruit everybody, their mothers, their brothers, their aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody at the school. And it was all year, because at that level, you're not giving them a scholarship. You're just selling yourself and selling the program and the school. And so I learned a lot that year, but I knew I wanted to get back into the Division I level. And I was very fortunate. And as my journey goes, it's all about relationships. It's all about meeting somebody and maybe writing a note, or even if you have an interview with somebody, you might not get that job, but how you react to it and how you follow up with those people. That's really how I got to where I was. So after NAS, I went and interviewed at a school, which they already knew. Sometimes they already know they're going to hire, who they're going to hire. But I did such a great job with this coach when he called to tell me that. We ended it. It was a great interview. I thought it was, well, he hired somebody else, but somebody else at the head coach, the brand new head coach at Wagner, was like, hey, I don't have any money. I have this, I have that, but do you know anybody? And he goes, I just interviewed a girl. She would have been my first pick. And so I get this phone call from Pam Roker, who just became the head coach at Wagner. And I literally drove halfway between, we both met at a tournament in Pennsylvania. And I sat with her for a couple hours. That was kind of my interview. Next thing I knew, I had a Division I job, as getting paid as a grad assistant, but basically I was full-time assistant, living in the dorms, 2 years there. I got my master's paid for, using basketball once again, not only for my undergrad to get my schooling paid for, but also for my master's, which a lot of times people are like, well, am I really going to get my master's? I'm so busy with coaching. And, I had a lady that was pretty tough on academics, my mother, who said, you better get your master's paid. You better get that done. So I did, and I was very thankful, because for everybody, if they're young coaches or old coaches, or no one can ever take that away from us, right? That education. So it is so important, no matter what you're in, no matter how many, if you lose a job, it doesn't matter. Nobody could take your degrees away from you. So I think it's so important to get the best education, the highest education that you can. And like I tell my players, and like I've done, like, use basketball, use it to get, to get that opportunity. Long story, but from there, coach there, awesome opportunity. Again, small Division I. So we did everything. I mean, there was the three of us, the one full-time assistant, my head coach, and myself. And they also made me recruiting coordinator for tennis and track. Oh, wow. And the only reason, like, tennis, I would call my mom all the time, like, I don't know what the heck, what's love mean, Mom? Like, I mean, I know love, but what's this scoring? And, so, but it was great, because I was recruiting again. I'm figuring out, how can I touch these kids in different ways when I don't even really, track, you look at numbers, but it's relationships. And you every place you go, you form relationships, and you make sure you keep those relationships. And not everybody's perfect. You're not going to learn through your career. You're not going to learn all great things. You're going to learn things that you might not want to do when you become a head coach. So from there, Wagner, finished my second year, and I was very lucky. I interviewed with Kirk Bruce at Pitt, which to me back then, the Big East, that was like a dream come true. And same kind of just craziness. Like, he was supposed to interview a girl, and it was at a Final Four, and the girl, I said, well, I'm at this number, call me if you're available. We didn't have cell phones, so you're waiting in your hotel room, waiting for a phone call. And he didn't, the other call didn't come through, and I called him, hey, LT, there's your cute smile. And, he called me and said, hey, the other person didn't show up. You want to come meet me? She had to go do something else, and I'll meet with her later. And I interviewed with him next weekend. He flew me to Pittsburgh, and we were at a big game, and he offered me the job. And here I am, an assistant at a Big East school. It was a dream come true for me. So 4 years later, got swooped away. It was like I was a student athlete. Auburn came. They double my salary, a car. Back then, the big cell phones, they actually had a cell phone. It was when they were first starting. And it was the SEC. And I'm like, back then I was like, well, I'm with a great person who's family oriented, who I absolutely just loved as a mentor, as a father figure, just the best. And I got, I see all these stars, all this stuff, and I wasn't asking the questions. And I went to Auburn. It was a year I was there. And at first it was, everyone thought, oh, she's a good Southern girl, named Bethann. And then I opened my mouth and like, oh my God, damn Yankee. So it didn't take long. But it was, it was a great experience. It was just different for me. And I learned a lot, what to do, what not to do. We won an SEC championship. I mean, beating Tennessee, beating teams that we had no business beating. And then from there, I ended up going and working for a young lady that had just rebuilt her program at Dayton. I was there for a year. And as an assistant, if your head coach gets out of it, you're at the mercy of, well, okay, now what? And then I took a year off from coaching, and that was 10 years of coaching right there. As an assistant, learning a lot, getting tossed around, just a lot of things, a lot of people that I met along the way, amazing relationships. Took a year back out and did some consulting, and I got to stay with my family for a little bit. And you don't get that in your career, to really step back, except for now with everything going on. Nope. You're kind of thrown into being home. But then from there, I went to, from the Sabres, I did some work consulting in Buffalo for the Sabres. And I went on to, was offered a job at St. John's and Tulsa. And sorry, LT, you know this story. But Tulsa, like everyone figured, oh, she's going to stay home, St. John's, New York. But the thing about Tulsa was, like, no disrespect to St. John's, but you win a championship or you're doing great there, and you're not going to have a great fan base, right? You get a little bit, but there's so much to do in New York City. And that was more comfortable for me, where Tulsa was a place that I was going to help rebuild. They just started their women's basketball back, like just started their program 3 years prior. And we went in and rebuilt it. So I went to Tulsa, and it was really fun. It was a fun place to work. 6 years we were there, and we took it to a whole nother level, helping rebuild. And then my head coach got taken away to Colorado. She took me 2 years there. And then I got really lucky and had an opportunity. Jeff Walls called, and Stephanie, his associate head coach, her and I had been friends. Again, it's all about relationships. We recruited, we knew each other pretty good. And she just called and she's like, could you come out back east or to Louisville? So, well, let me talk to Jim. And that's my husband. And Jim was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, we can work it out. We'll figure it out. And literally took the job, and it was unbelievable. When people tell you there's a place, it was Fantasyland for coaching. It was Fantasyland. I mean, we had everything. The first few years we didn't. But what we built there was awesome, and what they have now, right, LT, is off the charts. It's a pretty awesome place, and I have a coach on right now, which I'm so proud of her. She was one of our players at in my first 4 years. She was a freshman, and I was there 4 years and 2 Sweet 16s and a national championship, and she was just tremendous. And actually, I worked with her. She came out to Weber State after the 4 years at Louisville. I was okay with being a longtime assistant. And Jeff was so good at empowering his people, Coach Walls, not only his players. I mean, he would get everything out of them. And sometimes it looked rough, right, LT? But he just did such a great job with getting them to play, and you could see what he's done. I mean, look at his teams, but he also does it with his staff. And I was very lucky because he was just like, hey, he puts you in the position to be successful. And he put us in every spot, everything that a head coach would do. We scouts, recruiting, practice plans. I mean, every part of it, he puts you in that position to do that. He's like, you're ready, and I wasn't out there looking. It just happened to be a place that opened up, and it was back in my husband's territory, and it was crazy because I had never heard of Weber State, and just like, hey, you're ready. And it was probably the worst program in America, but I took it over. But before I got there, I also got to work with DP. He was our video coordinator, and another relationship. You know, I had LT after she played for me. We had an opening after my second year, and I called her up. I'm like, "You want to coach?" She's like, "Let's do it." So she came out for was it 2 years or one? Two. One. It was one, wasn't it? 1 year. It was quite the journey becoming a head coach. And when people tell you, so you really want to be a head coach, it really is quite the journey. So I was there, rebuilt the program. I had tremendous assistants, people around me, friends, family that would reach out, because those first couple of years were pretty rough before LT got there. I think she started the turn. Like it was really about her helping turn that program around, right, LT? But those first couple of years were rough, and I was very lucky. I had, besides my family, I had a person in my corner on campus in the Newman Center, a priest, Father Cummings, who was like just one of my guys. And I would hear from him all the time. Like, we'd be at church and he'd be like, "Let's pray for Coach Ord and the women's team." I'm like, "Father, come on. There's more important things to pray for." But it's just nice to have someone like that in your corner, especially when, you know, you're going through a lot. I mean, I never lost so much. It was rough. It was rough, but you just focus forward, and you just try to keep building. And you can't look at the past. You got to learn from it, but you got to just keep focusing forward. And within 5 years, it really takes 5 years to rebuild. And with, you know, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, we ended up going the furthest that Weber State has ever gone. So it's fun making history there. In my 7th year, I had an opportunity. I got a phone call, and they said, "Hey, you want to talk to Binghamton?" I was like, "No, I grew up going there when I was a kid. My aunt and uncle lived there, and I was, you know, I've seen Binghamton, but I'd never been to the school." But then I said, "Well, let me talk to the athletic director. He's a Seton Hall guy. He's a basketball guy." I talked to him for an hour, and within that hour, afterwards, I got off the phone and I said, my husband said, "What? That didn't go well?" And I said, "Well," I said, "actually it did." He goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, why do you say that?" He goes, "Because you didn't talk." I said, "Well, I actually listened for once." So I said, "I think I need to at least go see it." And I got here, and I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised. The facilities, they treat it like big time basketball. I mean, we don't have football, so it's like men's and women's basketball. So it's really cool. It's really great. And at Weber State, we tried to make it, you know, build it, but like the media stuff, it was, you know, not as much, you know, as far as the really being the big sport. Here, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's great for my kids. Like, they love, I mean, I love it for them. Like, that's the one part of coaching that I'm not like, I don't love, is the cameras and the TV and after and the interviews. But I will say, for the girls, it's great. It really is. And we have such great support here, which makes it really fun, for the team. And like, the kids can't go out. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to church without someone running onto you. "Hey, coach, how was so it's a great place." And that was a long story, but 30 years is a long time. So, and it's great to be close to my family. I will be honest with you on that one. That's a big part. So that's kind of in a nutshell, coaching.
Oh man, thank you for that. You know what? There's a couple things that stood out to me. I want you to kind of go a little bit deeper with inside of your story. One thing is, you know, you talk about building relationships and making sure that you're investing in your relationships. Can you give all of the coaches that's on the call because some of them are first year head coaches, some of them are assistant coaches, support role. What is some tactics or some things that you did throughout your career to build these lasting relationships that you have?
You know, I just feel like my personality, like the way I am with people, I'm a people person, and it's not rocket science, give somebody a smile. When you meet somebody, even if you don't know their name, that's when you go over the top and you're like, hey, how are you? It's so great to see you. You just gotta fake it. Sometimes you gotta fake the funk with that stuff, but it's you try to follow up with them too. And you just I think just being a nice person, just being a good person, and working your tail off for whoever you're working for. If you're a head coach, I don't care if you're a head coach or assistant, just work your tail off. And I think the biggest thing though is just being a good person, and wanting to, having energy, bringing good spirit, bringing positivity, because you want to surround yourself with that. And most people want to be around high energy, want to be around people that have a smile. Like, who wants to be around someone that's mopey all the time, right? You want to be around good people, and you just try to, as far as that's concerned, and just reaching out to people, making phone calls, not just an email. Like, I don't like email very much, and everything's all about email at Binghamton, and it's really hard. I'm like, oh shoot, I better check my email because it's big. But just dropping somebody a note, hey coach, it was great seeing you. Hey coach, like those relationships. Like, how much do we really write notes anymore? But just reaching out to people and making a phone call. I still have relationships I still check in with it's crazy. Like, I just make phone calls, and just check in on people.
Love that. Love that. The one thing I love that you just said was, writing the notes. I feel like that's one thing we kind of get away from because of all the technology that we have. We kind of overlook what we used to do. And some people still want to read those handwritten notes. So I think that's great that you shared that. So when you're looking for an assistant coach or anybody on your staff, what are some of the things that you're looking for as far as qualities in that type of role? So let's say you're going to hire an assistant coach. What's some of the qualities that you're looking for in that person?
Well, first and foremost is loyalty. I'm going to find out. I want to talk to you. I want to see what kind of person you are. I mean, you don't always bat 1,000, right? LT could tell you, but I've done pretty good, I think, except for maybe one, and LT knows. Not LT, don't worry, you guys, she's awesome. But I think I've been you just trying to read people. You want someone that's going to be loyal. You want somebody that's going to work hard, and you want to be around good people, and I am so lucky, and I see two of them are on the phone or on the line, TK and Coach Moore and Coach Keene. This staff that I have right now is tremendous. Coach Newman's been with me since the beginning. Talk about loyalty. She came sight unseen to Weber State. She works with me at Louisville. And our relationship has been unbelievable. She's part of our family. All my assistants, and LT will tell you, she knows she's still part of my family. Even though she ended up going Texas, getting closer to home, which happens. Coach, my assistant last year, Matt, I just lost him because he went closer to home, and he was going to work for somebody and be an associate head coach is what you want. I want them to go be head coaches and grow and figure out like, hey, I need to go closer to home, or, for whatever reason. That's not being loyal. But being loyal as far as knowing that your staff has your back, knowing that you give them something and it's going to be done, loyalty of just every part of your family. And being raised by two parents that were coaches, that's what I knew growing up. Like, my parents always had players over. It was like, that was our family. Those are my sisters and my brothers. We had one of my mom's tennis players living with us. We had couple of my dad's players living with us. You know, I mean, I had all this extended family, and I really truly treat my staff and my players in that way. And I think once you have, you know, once you get a job and once you're with somebody, you really need to make sure you're loyal and you treat them, you know, you're positive, and really work, really work.
Love it, love it, love it. So if you're taking notes, she just dropped some gems on you. She said you got to be super loyal. You have to work extremely hard at whatever you do. Try to be the best at what you're doing. She said you have to be family centered. If that's what those family core, whatever the core of your head coach is, you want to make sure that you can actually identify with those things as well. Thanks for sharing that, Coach. So when you made that jump from an assistant coach to a head coach, what was one of the biggest things you kind of had to deal with when you made your transition?
You're dealing with a lot, like a lot of people, I mean, it's not just, oh, I can, you know what, I think the hardest thing though, was, coaching is such a small part. Like you're not on the court, like that part, the coaching, the teaching, that is such a small part when you're a head coach. And I'll tell you, I miss, a lot of times now my relationships with the kids is different now, you know, like they don't want to get in the gym with the head coach. Like when I first became, I was like, well, you don't want me to shoot with you? Come on. They're going to the assistants. They still come in my office and I make sure they, you know, they do, and we have relationships. And I always say to them, hey, I'm free, but they want to, you know, they have that relationship with the assistants. That part, you know, was different for me. And you know, you're really doing a lot of different things. You're involved. You got to stay, you know, you got to have balance, but you still have to really coordinate a lot of people and making sure everyone's on the same page. And that's why assistants are so important, and having good, loyal, hardworking assistants, because they're going to help you with the pulse of the team. They're going to help you with doing all the other stuff. And when you are a head coach, let your assistants work. Empower them, for sure. Let them do their job. You know, at first it was hard because I had to give up like recruiting stuff. I mean, you know, or we had a couple bad games, or we had like 4 practices in a row. I'm like, can I go recruiting? They're like, no, coach, you have to be here. So like as an assistant, you could like, all right, I'm gonna go on the road for a couple days to go recruit and take a break from craziness, you know, like when you're rebuilding or during the season sometimes. But I would say those are some things.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that as well. And so I know you, a majority of what I used to see you do at the University of Louisville was recruit. You are a fierce recruiter. I mean, when you go out, you have to be one of the hardest working coaches I've ever met, especially when it comes to recruiting. I mean, you so fierce. My wife even knew you were, and and that's only because she is a player. So my question to you is, what are some of the things you do as a recruiter early in your career? Like, what were some of the things you were doing that made you such a fierce recruiter?
Relationships. You have to. Kids can see through you too. You know, it's just forming relationships, being a, you know, smiling. I know I keep saying that, but like even when you're on the phone, before we had all this technology, when I would talk on the phone, some of the things one coach years and years ago taught me is like, you know, like even though you're on the phone, they can't see you. If you smile, they know you're smiling. And just having, you know, upbeat personality, trying to figure out, like asking them questions, not just always talking and always telling. And sometimes I have to hold myself back, because when kids are quiet, forget about it. I'm on and on, talking, you know, and you're not learning a lot about them. So you really have to listen too. I have to take a lot of notes. I write a lot of notes down so I can remember things, so I don't keep asking the same questions, or, you know, forgetting about things. Or when somebody tells you something, oh, mom's birthday is next week. So next week when I call or I'll text, hey, tell mom happy birthday. Like little things like that might not seem like a big thing. They're big things. The other thing is some of the things I learned at some of the smaller schools early on. Like I said, you recruit everybody. When you walk into a gym, when you're going to watch a kid, or when you're calling a school to check on academics, when we could walk around, you go and you meet everybody. You meet the janitor, you meet the lunch lady. Back then we could have lunch with the kids in school, and I sat with the kids right in the middle of the class, you know, right? We go to class, you go to class. I mean, whatever you can do legally, you do. And kids like that, you know. Now, I mean, kids, every year, everything's different. People are different. Now it's like, you know, videos, or what's that kid really like? But the other thing is selling your kids. I've been very fortunate, like here at Binghamton, my kids are off the charts. They are tremendous. They're like, they really like each other. They really like, just like hanging out with each other, and you could see it on the court too. It always translates. But they use the things you have. Don't always think about the negatives. Think about the positives you can find from your school, and just sell the heck out of it, you know. Sell your boss, sell, you know, but just being positive. And as an assistant, getting your head coach on the phone is huge. When a head coach doesn't like to recruit, you gotta get them to recruit. You gotta get them to recruit, because I don't care what level you're at, from my first, you know, from Weber State to like even like Coach Walls at Louisville. The minute we stepped on campus together, I didn't know anything about the school. I was in the office. We were all on the phone. We were passing it around. I had the high school coach, Coach Norman had the AAU coach, and we would swap it around. The kid would be on with Steph and Jeff. And I mean, like, my staff knows, they walk in my office, they hand me a phone, I'll figure out who it is. If they can't, tell me, and we'll roll with it. Like you figure it out, and it's work, you know. But it's really about relationships, and building those relationships and the people around them.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember those days, passing those phones around. That phone would start on your side of the office. It would end up all the way on the other wing of the office, and everybody would be talking to all of the kids. So that's being 100% transparent right there with that one. So when you built so you already built a program at Weber State. Now you're at Binghamton. You're turning that program around, and you're putting your stamp on that one. What do you do to build that culture? Because I went to a couple games this year when you guys played Stony Brook, and all of the girls seem to like each other. And that's very difficult to see on a team, win or loss. It's just very difficult to see that type of team morale. What are some of the things that you do inside of your team culture to build that type of morale?
Yeah, well, since the first day I got on campus. So first of all, I wasn't leaving Weber State just to take another, you know, mid-major rebuild. Like, I knew there were some really good pieces, even though they had lost the MVP and the defensive player of the year. So people probably were like, what the heck, that's total rebuild. I really liked our pieces. Obviously, Kai Moon was one of those pieces, and she wasn't the star back then, but from the first day, I told them all, I called every one of them, and I said, hey, like, I am so excited about what we have and what we're about to do. And the biggest thing was my first thing is for culture is golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Not rocket science. And continuing to start from there, like, be a good person, you know, take care of your teammates. I have a friend that used to say LSD, lift someone daily. I know that might sound like, if you're having a bad day, guess what? Somebody else is having a worse day. Go lift somebody else up, because you'll feel better. And just trying to continue to talk about that kind of stuff is from the beginning, like, hey, for us to be successful, we got to be a team, and we got to be close, and we got to, you know, have that fist mentality, like, together we can do anything. And I think from that start, and telling them, look, you get in the gym, good things happen. You have to get better individually for this team to get better. Sorry.
That's all right.
Sure.
I'm
Now
ready to recruit.
No, I would have answered it.
I know you would have.
It's my little brother. But the biggest thing is like you got to get better as a individual. You got to get in the gym, and we talked about that from the first day. And my first month there, really, like all of the kids, like people kept coming up to me, Coach, I've never seen the kids in the gym so much. I'm like, really? Like, I'm like, great. They kept saying it, so I guess they hadn't in the past. Just fine. And it was just me at the beginning because my staff hadn't been on campus yet. It was like a good month, the whole month of July. Whew, it was rough, but it was fun. And like hearing those things, like, and seeing those, and they just kept doing it. And this is what we're supposed to do, and this is what we're going to do. And that's really it started with the older kids, and they saw it, and everyone gets better. And then I had 6 freshmen last year plus 1 transfer, who I think is on, Miss Hannah. She's on right now too. She wants to be a future coach, I think. And having 7 new players, those 3 seniors and my juniors and my sophomores from the year before, they knew what we already started, and they helped build it. And they're great kids, and they all like just embraced each other. And I think that's a really big part. And just from the first minute that you're the head coach, from the first minute you step on that campus, you have got to tell them, hey, this is what we're going to do to be successful. And you just got to keep talking about it. We talk about it every day.
Love it. So a couple of things that I just took away from that is, first of all, get some golden rules, right? I heard you actually break down, make sure you treat others the way that you want to be treated. Like that seems very simple, but that is a golden rule. That's a principle. Repeating things consistently. I think consistency is something that you really preach. I always hear you talk about, you got to make sure you're consistent. You got to make sure you're consistent. So I know that was one thing that you installed in me as a young coach. What is something that you could tell the coaches on the line to help them to sharpen their skill set as a coach? Like during these times, we have some downtime, we have some time to ourselves. What should we exactly be working on during this time to get better as coaches?
Well, first and foremost, reach out to people, check on people, make phone calls. Those are all, and not just about recruit. It might just be to check on a coach, just to say, hey, say hi, whatever. Watch your craft, like figure out what, if you're a guard coach, try to look at post stuff too. Try to make sure you got both. If your coach is saying, hey, you're going to be the offensive coach, or you're going to help with offense more, watch videos, watch tape. Most people have Synergy maybe, or YouTube. Kids are always telling me, hey coach, you don't know how to do that? YouTube it. Okay. But just calling people, doing these kind of things, getting on. I saw Coach Walls was on today. I missed it because I had a conference call, but getting on the internet and watching, and they're showing so many old basketball games, watching games, rewatching some of your games, figuring out what you're doing. We just put together, my one assistant, Coach Newman, she just put together some all of our our plays on video playbook. And then we're thinking about, because we're gonna have 5 new players hopefully soon. We have 4 right now, but to add to it, we're trying to figure out what do we need to do for this year. So we're talking about it in a couple of our in some of our meetings. What are we going to change up? What are we going to keep the same? What works? And we're even looking at a couple of years ago, or what we did at Weber State, to see, hey, this really might work for this team this coming year. So as an assistant, bringing ideas to your head coach. As a head coach, watch film, talk to people, call some buddies, call anybody and say, hey, what do you guys do at this point? LT, she's got, she played at Louisville. We do a lot of the same stuff we did in practice. She'd be like, yeah, this is pretty much practice. But she knew when she became one of my assistants, it was pretty easy for her, because she's like, oh yeah, we're doing 3 jump shots and a layup, right? We did that every day, every year. And you just do certain things, and you can tweak things. And I have assistants, Coach Moore, he brought in some defensive stuff for us. And So we're doing different things, and Coach Keen's breaking things down for us. And, you talk to other coaches, get ideas. Nobody's invented anything, I mean, you come up with ideas and you tweak it, different terms and things like that. But just working on your craft, I would say, is a big, big thing.
Love it. Love it. And we love to help others work on their craft. So if you are a coach and you do want to work on your craft, we do a lot of support with our coaches.
Yes, we do.
So Coach, we're going to now open it up for question and answer. So if there's anyone that's on the call right now, this is our Q&A portion. So if you have any questions that are legal questions, don't start asking any illegal questions at this point, right? Coach Ord is open right now to answer those questions. So what you could do is you could take yourself off mute. And while we're doing this, let's all go in that chat and let's put our phone numbers, social media, any contact information that you want other people to have, because this is also a way for us to build relationships, right? We're all on this call together. Every time we have one of our coaching corner interviews, I send out an email afterwards with all of the contact information from everybody on the call. So if you want to connect with one another, just put your contact information in the chat and we'll get that out to you after the call. But we are now open for question and answers.
Paige.
So you could take yourself off mute and you could kind of just say your question. Let's try to get the ladies to go first though. So the guys, don't just try to hop in, fellas. Let's let the ladies go.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Coach? You doing good?
See you. I have a quick question. I was just wondering what it is that you guys are doing now that you don't really have hands-on with your kids. If there's anything that you guys are doing as a staff to keep them together. Obviously you guys could like set up workouts and stuff like that. But I mean, like even from like beyond that, like from like a cultural standpoint, if there's something that you guys are doing to kind of enhance your culture and so on and so forth.
Yes. Well, what we do regular anyway, like, so right after we finished, it's such a high academic school at Binghamton. We give them a couple week break. So basically this past week would have been like the first time we would have actually tried to, start working them out. But when we left, my team, each kid has a coach. So like each assistant has like four players, and they meet with them once a week. So it's like academic, it's how are they? So we've continued that. It's not basketball, it's just a check-in. And then what we did to add to it is I know it's all FaceTime because I want to see their faces. Like, I know I could hear their smile, but I want to make sure they're okay, especially with everything going on, and to make sure you can really see them. So I call them once a week. We have a set time, or I should say they call me. I tell them to call me. And then my staff does. And then every day I talk to my staff. We have like a FaceTime call. And has anybody done House Party? Is anybody on House Party? It's an app. It's kind of fun. And we've done it twice now as a staff because you only have 8 people on it. And we have our little talk. We talk about how the kids are, make sure everyone's good, and then how, any academic, anything. And then we'll talk for a little bit about other things. And a couple times we've done this house party, which is like, there's like games. So we're just having like, it's like you could do Pictionary and one person's drawing and everybody else is guessing with the staff. Just something fun to lighten it up. But I talk to them every day together. And then, but not really as far as they're playing, we've kind of just talked about going old school. Like when we were kids, now some of you guys, I mean, I should say when I was a kid, we didn't have much. So it was a basketball hoop out on our driveway. You're dribbling the ball out on the driveway. We can't do much right now. So if you have a hoop, use it. One of my kids doesn't. So she said, Coach, I don't have a hoop. I said, get a garbage can, stick it out in the middle of the field and just start shooting at it. Just work on that. Mm-hmm. So, whatever you can do. Coach Newman was showing the girls, hey, if you can't find any weights, to start lifting some couches. Yeah, she's kind of crazy with the weights. And then the other thing we've been doing, Coach Keen, my assistant, she's kind of riles up or sets up our chemistry, team bonding, and she's done a tremendous job with that. And she's setting it up where we've done different activities, and the girls are signing up for it. And we're using the like Instagram and Twitter, all the social media, to also let people see things about our players. And I don't know if you guys follow me, Coach Ord, easy, but you'll see some of the things. Mondays we're showing why the kids came to Binghamton. And I'm telling you, these kids, they're awesome. Some of the things they're saying, I'm like, oh my goodness, like they're just great kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said. You want to be a great coach, you get great kids. It makes your life a lot easier, really.
Love that. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not following Coach Ort right now, take this opportunity to make sure that you go follow her. She's always dropping different things to help you as a coach. She's always talking about her university so you can know more. And it's always good to connect with other people. So make sure you actually go follow her. Any more questions? We're open. Question and answer.
And did I answer your
Hi,
question?
Coach.
I kept talking. Hi, Paige. How are you?
Good. How are you? My name is Paige Quickens. I'm an assistant women's basketball coach over at Concordia College, New York. I did have one question that I always think about. And going through your years as a coach, what would be your one tidbit that you would tell your younger self? Like if there's one thing you could have a full conversation with yourself, compared to then and now, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? There's always something great's gonna. I mean, you just keep working hard. Just keep focus on doing the best job you can do. You just try to always enjoy. No, this is what it is. I'll tell you what it is. Because this year, like for whatever reason, and I don't know why, but I had this lady. A lady that's on this call right now, and every day before, we had such a great group, but really enjoy the process. And I did. I mean, not just the games. I just enjoyed this team so much. And it was crazy because before games, before practice, I really just took it in, really enjoyed the group we had, and they were such a special group. And even though we ended too soon, like so many other people,
Mm-hmm.
I was very thankful that I did that, because I didn't miss a moment. I still did my little, what I do before games and things but I enjoyed we'd be at meals, and I just enjoyed these kids, and that's why we're in it, right? You're in it because you're trying to help these young ladies grow as people and what they're doing future. So just enjoy while you're doing it, but work hard, but enjoy it.
Okay.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. Any more questions? We are open.
I have one. Hi, I'm Jenny DeGraff. I'm a graduate assistant at Boston College. I know your guy, Matt. I just talked to him today, actually.
Hi, Jenny. How are you? You guys had a great year. Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been fun. I'm graduating in May, so I'm out of there.
Terrific.
But it's been fun. So, but anyway, my question was, so kind of going through the interview process a little bit, what is, as a head coach, what are some things that you're looking for in the interview process that kind of stick out to you and sell that person?
You're obviously a personality. I want good energy. I want smiles. You don't have to smile all the time, but I want positive people. I want to surround myself, and I don't want who I am. I want people that are going to also challenge me. Like head coaches, you always want to surround yourself with great people, which I have, and I'm very lucky. I don't want a yes person, but I also want to know that if I take your idea, awesome. If I don't, you got to be okay with it. You got to still be like, okay, well, but don't stop coming at, don't stop giving me ideas, or stop trying to do something that'll help. But in the process of getting to know me, or getting to know an assistant, I just really reaching out, doing the little things like an extra, like a note. I'm always going to call people that you worked for, or you worked with, or your coach, your former coach, if you're young, like you are. So make sure you always keep those relationships, always. You just never know. And you just, it's amazing how small our world is, our basketball world, and it gets smaller and smaller, especially this old lady. So I would say just continue to be, to have a craft, like have something like, oh, I'm really good at, try to be versed in social media. And I hope you don't do anything bad on social media, because people look at that stuff. Do, like all the stuff too, like Takima, my assistant Takima, is really good at Photoshop and things like that, and she's there for us to post things, instead of me just dropping things trying to do what I used to do. Having something extra that maybe somebody else won't have. And what's big coming up down the line, all the new computer stuff, like try to Google stuff up and learn how to do that, so that you guys probably have a lot of equipment at BC, make sure you know how to use most of that stuff, because you can come in and say, hey, I've done it, I know how to use it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thanks for that.
Come on, LT, you got something for me.
Hi, Bethann. I'm not going to put my video up because I'm looking super quarantine-y right now, but I just wanted to ask you what kind of advice.
Is that Kale?
It's me, yeah. It's
Hey,
Cal.
Coach.
I just wanted to kind of ask what kind of advice you had for an assistant coach who's a part of like a rebuilding process. We kind of got to speak a little bit about it, but just like your experience that you had at Weber State, and then now the success that you were able to have here at Binghamton. I got a little bit of like an insight through my sister, but just kind of curious about that.
Well, back when I was an assistant, like at Tulsa, when we just took over, and it was my head coach's first head coaching job, it's all about just working really hard, trying to make their life easy by, making sure you're not bringing any problems, like getting things handled before the head coach gets any more stuff on their plate. And always trying to stay as positive as you can and focus forward. Like, don't come in, like we just lost 5 in a row, and are you going to come in like, oh, coach, this sucks, or crack a joke, try to lighten it, lighten the, people get too serious, I think, sometimes. And just stay positive, and just make sure you're giving your head coach stuff to help them, not to add anything. Somebody told me, this is a great quote, a person that near and dear, Debbie Antonelli, said to me, she said, don't try to prove anything, improve. So don't try to prove anything, but try to improve yourself, your program, your coach, everything you can do to help. You know what I mean? Like, don't bring me a problem, figure out how we can, unless it's something really bad, then we got to figure it out together. But try to handle some of those things for your head coach to take off her plate. But when you're rebuilding, you really got to focus forward, and just have those kids know that we're going to get there. And if you're all believing, you got to get them to believe, and you got to just keep show them that you care too. When you're in the gym with them late at night or early, they want to get shots up, get in there with them. That's how you build relationships too, with your players, with your culture, everything, especially as an assistant.
That was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Coach is dropping bombs today. Man,
Yes.
I told you, make sure you have in paper.
Be happy.
Oh my gosh, be happy. And I want to tell you guys, anybody that's in town, and Kalisha knows, anytime you guys are in Binghamton, if you're driving past us, anything, we have practice, please, we are open. Our practices are open. My door is always open. My cell phone's always on. If I'm not talking to a recruit, I'm happy to talk to, or my mother, or my family.
We actually have mom on the call. So for anybody,
oh God, I'm so
mom is on the call.
she knows where she,
Still beautiful. Man. All right. Let's any more questions? We're open.
I'm gonna back up my sister.
Okay.
But this is more, turn down your volume. Sorry, we're getting backlash. I think this is more like a question, but an opportunity for Coach to kind of talk about my experience here. Like as a young coach, I felt like I was really empowered to kind of like learn and grow and stuff like that. And I just think hearing some people on the call talking about, you know, like moving into that part of it, I guess if Coach could just talk about like empowering young coaches and the things that, you know, we need to bring as far as like energy, recruitment and stuff like that. I think Coach does a really good job of nurturing us that way. And she kind of touched on it before, but just reinforcing that for those that are looking for new jobs. Like, I think it's a super important thing as a head coach to get her perspective on it.
Yeah, thanks, Takima. It is very important. And I learned that from Coach Walls, was very, very good at empowering his people. And that is one thing that I learned from him. Because you're not always going to be an assistant under a coach that does want to empower you, but you don't let that come out of you. You know, you got to stay positive. You've got to try to figure out the best way you can help, you know, even though you might try to help and they keep telling you, no, find a time to go sit with that coach. Go in there and ask them, like, what can I do to help you, coach? Or what do you think about this? And if not, what else can I do? Like, keep bringing ideas to help your coach. They'll know that you're trying to help. Don't just give up and sit in your office and not try to, you know, not work. The big thing that I think with my people is, if you give them a job, let them do it. When they do their job, they're gonna feel good about it. Then they're gonna know, I can do this, you know. And when they do a good job, tell them they did a good job, and an occasional thank you. It's amazing what that'll do for spirits. Amazing. And believe it or not, in all the years, it was kind of a little bit of a shock when I went somewhere and I was like, oh, they said thank you. Oh, Coach Wells just gave us, you know, a little note saying great job. And it wasn't even, I mean, we had maybe another top recruiting class, so it's something crazy, but it's like, it's just nice to hear. I mean, it's not something you need all the time, but as a head coach and as an assistant too, like, there's nothing wrong with just being really positive and just helping your people. Like, if you know, like, what would you like to do? What would, you know, ask them. And it's all about communicating, and it's over communicating as an assistant, as a head coach. That's the key, is really communicating a lot. Did I answer it, Takima? She got off. Yeah. I don't know.
I think she's good.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
LT's ready. LT's ready.
You did.
Okay, LT's ready. I see her.
No, I just wanted to talk about how, like, when you're an assistant and you were like recruiting kids, and how you would find kids that like found the balance between kids that you connected with, kids you knew would connect with your head coach, and kids that would fit into like the culture of the program. Because I feel like there's a lot of things that you had to think about finding kids, especially like coming into play, like for Jeff, for example. Like, you know, how do you balance all that?
By, you know, a lot of communication with these kids, you know, and you're watching them, you know, you're watching them play, you know, and you get in there and you're watching a million kids, and it's like, you know, it's a lot, you know, to see kids, and then going from the highest level, you know, Louisville, to be at a, you know, mid-major or Division III or JUCO, or first and foremost, you got to figure out like where, like, what are our needs, or what do you think we can, you know, get. But I also watch them on the bench. You know, I watch them, how are they reacting to their coach when there's a huddle? Are they standing on the side, even though they're the best player, hand on the hip, looking around, throwing their bottle, yelling at the official? Like, you watch those things. And then you also have to be pretty honest with these kids too. Like, look, do you want to, like for Jeff, like, you want to win a championship? We're going to do it here. We're going to get to a national championship. But I will tell you, you're going to work your butt off. Like you work your tail off, and, you know, good things will happen. Now, somebody could still work their tail off and not be good enough. You know, I mean, that's on us, you know, because we're picking it and we think, you know, you really got to just really communicate and watch and talk to coaches about them. You know, you'll learn, like when you go to a home visit and they're being disrespectful to their parent. They're being disrespectful to a parent. I don't know if you really want that on your team, whether they're all American or not, you know, or even talk to them about it. Like, you know, you just were really rude to your mother, you know, oh yeah, we just kid around. Then that's one thing. But if they're like, so, you know, I mean, you kind of do, you know, like looking at that, but, you know, obviously you want skill, you want what fits your program or your head coach, and getting them on the phone, you know, with your head coach. And they'll tell you too. You know, Jeff will tell you if the kid's no, that's a dud. I don't want a dud, right? LT, I don't want a dud. But the other thing is, you know, you want kids. You help kids learn too. Like you want them to grow, as long as they, you know, they might not have the background of knowing how to act sometimes. And you can't save everyone, you can't change everyone, but if there's a little glimmer, if you put your arm around a kid, it's amazing what they'll do for you. And giving them a chance, and you know, they know that I'm gonna get on them. We hold each other accountable, and that's another tough thing when you're a brand new head coach, to being, you know, really having to stick to your guns and holding everybody accountable the same way, whether it's your best player, the worst player, your staff, yourself, and you really have to do it to yourself too. But I think just really helping them grow, and seeing if they have that. You know, they might not be the best player, but they might have that work ethic that's just like, oh my gosh, this kid will run through a wall for me, and I'm gonna get them to be that next level. And we develop our kids, and you know LT, I mean, tremendous. You know, you always want to be able to develop your players. That's another big thing that head coaches want, is your staff, and you could get in the gym with anybody.
Nice.
Did I answer it, LT? Good.
Nice. All right. Any more questions? Any more questions for Coach Ord? Love that.
Come on, guys. The guys don't have any?
Yeah, this has been incredible. I actually love what you said about the home visit. How, you know, you should be able to look and see how the student athlete is responding to their parents, because you can actually tell a lot about the kids. You know, Buzz Williams had said something about that on a podcast he was on. He said that he would actually coach a kid on the house visit with the family and see how the parents would respond to him coaching them. If he saw that the parents were kind of like, why is he talking to you like that? Or, you know, like, wait, what's going on? He already knew, like, he was going to have to deal with those type of parents if he was to take that kid. So I think that's huge that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's just important, you know, and you see a lot. You see a lot of kids, and you don't just, you know, sometimes it's hard. Like right now, we just signed 4 kids. One of them, Coach Newman and I had a great relationship. We recruited her twice before, and third time was a charm, which was great. So we already had a relationship with her. I mean, right now they're not coming on campus. So you really got to get to know kids. You got to still do your due diligence by calling former coaches, calling their high school coach, calling, you know, where they just came from, trying to find out a lot about them, because this is, you know, it's a different time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any more questions? Questions for Coach Ord?
Tim,
come on.
Tim.
I got one. So after being a longtime assistant and making that jump to becoming a head coach, what was something you weren't prepared for that maybe you had wished someone would have told you, or you would have been ready for that first time being a head coach?
When I first became a head coach at Weber State, when my athletic director said, any money you make with it's schedule. If you get money and we had like no budget, any money you bring in. So if we go and play a big school, we went to Oregon, they're going to give you that goes right to your program. So I'm thinking, oh, we're going to get some money. Not so smart, because we got drilled. I mean, you saw my record the first couple of years. So really, that's something that I learned really quick. And I would tell anybody that becomes a head coach, like, I'm not telling you to try to get cupcake games. I'm telling you, get a good, your schedule is just as important as recruiting and getting great players. And because you don't want your kids to just get pummeled. I mean, that's tough. You got to get some confidence first, right? You win a couple and you got a little confidence. So you really try to balance your schedule. I had a SWA one year, or my Louisville one, Julie Herman. She was terrific. She's like she said like 3 that you absolutely can win, 3 that 50-50, and then maybe 2 if you really need to get a big game, like, or 4-3-3, like that. Like somebody that, might not be 50-50. So you try to do, kind of make sure you do that. And that's a very big part. Coach Nick, my assistant right now, is working on, we're still trying to finish our schedule. But he's doing a great job right now, trying to get it done. But you try to set it up so you get some, the kids need to see some confidence early.
Love that. Did that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, good. That was tough. That was.
That was a great question.
I learned real fast. I was like, what am I doing? Who cares that we have all this money? I want some W's, man.
But you turned around the program. I want everybody to understand that even though you went through those bumps and you went through those challenges, you stayed positive, just like you've been talking about, and you turned around that program. So I want everybody.
Focus forward.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions, Coach? Or she's just now getting going, y'all. I'm letting you know her juice is she's sipping on the tea.
I'm gonna have to stand up a little.
She's sipping on the tea. She's just now getting going.
It's hot water.
Oh,
I love this hot water with lemon.
Any more questions?
Hi, Coach. Paige again.
Oh, Paige.
Hey. I do have another question. What would you say your biggest challenge was this year, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge this year.
You gotta watch out for Paige. She asks some of the most difficult questions of almost anybody on the call. So you gotta be aware Coach Paige is gonna come after you.
I'm sorry.
In a good way.
This year on the court, recruiting, what? Because I could. Which
you choose, just and anything that comes to mind first that you feel is like your biggest challenge of the year.
I'll say it wasn't really a challenge, but I think it was a challenge to me. So this is the first time we went after a couple kids that other big schools were on, and we didn't get them. So this was the first time in the fall we didn't sign anybody. So I had that in the back of my head a lot. But I had the most positive and most amazing assistants that really just kept me like, it's okay, coach, but we ended up obviously doing, I think, really good, and not just taking, we didn't feel like we had to just take anybody. We lost a couple kids that, to some big, like, the new thing is there's not a lot of big kids this class, and we lost one like Northwestern. We lost one pretty good guard went to NC State, which it was us, NC State, and another school. And we're like, it was like Central Florida. So it was like, you're going after a kid and they're on your campus. You got to try, right? So the early period, we did not sign anyone early, but it was worth the wait because we got some tremendous kids that, the portal, and we have a young lady from Spain that's coming in too. So I would say that for me this year, but this season, it was such a fun group to be around, and they worked really hard. We were so competitive on the court, in practice, and my older kids, there wasn't really anything that, of course, not letting Stony Brook beat us, but I don't think there was anything, I would have maybe changed a couple of things. You always question yourself, on some of those losses. But that's that's part of every year. You know, you always look, what can I do better? What can we do better? But I didn't feel like it was one thing significant.
Nice. All right. Any more questions? Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for being on the call. We want to thank you, Coach Ord, for joining us on the Coaching Corner. Now we do a group coaching call on Sunday nights for everybody that's in our coaching program. We actually have some of our clients on the phone now. We've been working on coaching portfolios. We've been doing different things to sharpen your tools and add different tools into your toolkit. So we want to offer that to all the coaches on the line, just letting you know that's what we do. But we always have these interviews, and I told my wife, I said, we have to get Coach Ord on the interview. We're super excited. We're thankful, first of all, that you even took time out of your day to do this with us. And we're thankful for everybody being on the call today.
Yes. Thank you to all of you.
No, thank you guys for having me. And everybody on this call, like, feel free. And I'm not just saying it. Anytime you guys reach out, and if there's anything I could do to help or come to a practice or anything, you know, and DP is doing, and Gabby, they're doing a great job of really trying to help people. And that's what it's about, you know, help somebody, or, you know, giving ideas or suggestions. And I love coming to practice too. If you have practice, I'll come watch practice. I love going to high school practice. That's one thing. Another thing I miss, like, sometimes you get to go practice, you know, when you're assistant, and you just pick up little nuggets, you know, just getting something new, and just keep learning, keep growing, and you know, don't stop learning. That's for sure.
Focus forward. I love that. Focus
forward. Oh yeah, especially when times get tough, just focus forward. remember what happened before, but always focus forward, for sure.
Love that. So we're thankful. We're gonna go ahead and close it out. Just want to leave everybody with some encouragement as you get off the call. Just remember that whatever you go through is only gonna help you become a better person. So if you're going through tough times right now, just take it and learn from it. You can't lose a game if you always learn. A bad loss is when you take that L and you didn't learn anything from it. So you make sure you learning as you go through life, and count your wins and your losses, but always learn from every situation. So that's all for the Coaching Corner today. Thank you for being on. We'll shoot that email out to you with everybody's contact information. Coach Ord, it's been a blessing. We appreciate you.
Forever in my heart.
Thank you. Oh, you guys are too much. And follow me on Instagram, and big up to women's basketball too, because my staff does a tremendous job with that too. So make sure you guys follow us.
Put your handles in the email, and everybody will have them so they can make sure they follow you.
Okay. Did Takima leave? Takima, will you do that in the chat for me?
No.
Because you know, you guys will. Oh, okay, I got it.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you the guest.
Oh, sorry. Because I'm slow typer. They laugh at me. They know. You already know, LT. I see you. And you know what the other thing is? Your former players, check in on them. I still have relationships with I had a girl call me. I recruited her at Pitt back in the early 90s. She came to my UMBC game, and she's now a high school coach. And we talked, and there was a kid that I was going to recruit a little bit, one of her players. I mean, you don't know, you just never know. And it's not about recruiting, but just checking on people. LT had, I have a mutual friend, and he's like, do you know LT? I'm like, yeah, she coached with me, and I coached her, and I was like, she's tremendous. And he's like, I'm hiring her. I'm like, perfect. But you just don't know. You just never know who people know. And it's just stay in touch with people, check in with people. So
another gem.
Another one.
All right.
As we're going off.
As we getting off, you still dropping bombs.
Sorry.
DP, I have a question.
And my ear.
We got one more question, Coach.
Hey, Coach Ord. Good evening. It's Coach Brian Cole, head women's basketball coach at Nassau Community College.
Hi.
I've been listening. I love the call. DP, just checking in. Hey, Gab. Hope you guys are doing well. just a question. Have you ever recruited junior college players over your journey? And
Oh, yes.
what are some of the positives and some of the negatives of recruiting a junior college player? And if you could give me any type of feedback as to could I help my player be ready for you?
Okay, so just to give you a background real quick, I speak Jucanese. I grew up, my dad was a JUCO AD coach, so I was born in the Jukes and went for a year, and then I got my opportunity. So I talk to kids about that all the time. You know, if somebody doesn't have a spot they want to go, I say, go to the right, go to a junior college, get better, develop, make sure, keep your grades up, get your grades up, and then even if you have good grades going in, you develop and use that time to do really well in school and prepare and get in the gym and get better. And as far as JUCO kids, absolutely. It's not always because you're a bad kid you're going to JUC. That's not what it's about. It just, everyone has a different story. You just find out and figure it out. I have a former coach, Coach Jones, down in Pensacola, and I try to, sometimes send her some people as well, because I know she's gonna get these kids ready. And that's the biggest thing, Coach. Who make sure they're doing the academic piece, make sure they're getting in the gym and getting better and developing, and that's a big part of it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Coach. Sorry, I'm actually driving, so I can't.
Oh, that's okay.
So I don't want to think I'm not being rude or anything.
No, DP will give you my info too. You got some people. Let's go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Got some ballers.
I'll definitely reach out. Hopefully, Coach Page gets one of our girls, but if not, hopefully we can work something out.
Okay. No, I see you, Coach Page. Work it. Get it, girl.
Let's go.
I love it.
Let's go. Everybody getting players. Let's go. Let's get it. All right. Okay. So thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. You have a great night. Tell Jim I said what's up. And
all right.
Let's keep rocking and rolling.
All right.
Thank you, Coach.
He's making dinner. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Coach.
Coach.